All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about perpendicular lines. Yesterday we talked about parallel lines and how those have the same slope. Today we're going to have a little bit different of a take home with perpendicular lines. Whenever we think about perpendicular, guys, that means that they intersect at a 90-degree angle. So some examples of that would be to cross your arms like this, or to think of a plus sign, or like a door frame where the two corners meet. Where they make a 90-degree angle is perpendicular lines. And so one thing that we need to know about their slope, this is going to be our take home. Their slopes are opposite reciprocal. Those are pretty mathy words, and so I wanted to break that down for you and make it a little more simple. Opposite, if I were to say what's the opposite of hot, you would tell me cold. If I were to say what's the opposite of positive, you would say negative. So that's what we're talking about whenever I say opposite. You're going to have the different sign. So if your slope was positive, it's now going to be negative. If it was negative, it's now going to be positive. That's what I'm talking about with opposite. Now let's talk about reciprocal. Reciprocal means to flip the fraction. That's all that it means. It's a very difficult sounding word, kind of tough to spell, but all it's talking about is to flip the fraction. So change your sign, flip the fraction. That's all we need to do with our perpendicular slopes. If you'll notice in your steps, that's going to be the only thing that's different. We're still going to identify the slope from the line that they give us. We're going to change the sign, flip the fraction, and then we're going to plug our slope and our point into our point slope form. Okay? So let's take a look at some examples of that. If I'm given the point 4, 8, and I want it to be perpendicular to y equals negative 4x minus 7. First thing I need to do is identify the slope in the line that they gave me. So the slope that they gave me is negative 4. Now then, with negative 4 being a whole number, one way that I can make it a fraction is to put it over 1. So now I've got a fraction in order to flip it. I notice that my sign is negative. So opposite means that my slope is going to be positive. Reciprocal means to flip the fraction. So instead of it being 4 over 1, it's now going to be 1 over 4. And that's going to be my new slope. So I take my new slope, my perpendicular slope, and the point that they gave me and plug it into point slope form. Y minus the y that they gave me equals my slope times x minus the x that they gave me. Now we're doing the same stuff from last week. Distributive property with your slope. Y minus 8 equals 1/4 x minus 1. If you're not comfortable doing that in your head, feel free to use your calculator, not a big deal. Opposite operations to isolate your y, and we get y equals 1/4 x plus 7. And that would be a perpendicular line to the one that they gave us. It means they would cross to make a 90-degree angle. Let's do one more together. If I were given the point 2, negative 1, and I wanted it to be perpendicular to y equals 1/5 x plus 3. First thing I would need to do is identify the slope of the line that they gave me. And it's the number right here in front of the x, this 1/5. Since it's already a fraction, I don't have to worry about putting it over 1. It's already a fraction. So the two things I need for perpendicular slope are opposite, reciprocal. I notice that my slope is positive. So to be opposite, my new slope would need to be negative. And then the second thing is to flip the fraction. Since it's 1 over 5, we would now switch it to 5 over 1, which is the same thing as just a negative 5. So now we take our slope, the point that they give me, and plug it into point slope form. Y minus the y that they give me equals the slope times x minus the x that they give me. Do the distributive property with your slope. I don't know what kind of error that was. We get y plus 1 equals negative 5x plus 10. Use opposite operations to isolate your 1, and we get y equals negative 5x plus 9. Your take home from today. Perpendicular slope means opposite reciprocal. Change your sign, flip your fraction. Go get them.